All right, let's call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar,
Present.
sorry, Mr. Kubicki,
Present.
Ms. Hughes.
Present.
We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the regular meeting minute, the signing of the meeting minutes of January 11th, 2022. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki,
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
Okay, I make a motion to approve the special meeting minutes of January 25th, 2022. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes.
Yes.
And then we go into open forum. Do we have anybody signed into open forum?
Yes, Karen Rude. Hi.
Karen, and your last name is?
Rude, just like the adjective.
Like Babe Ruth.
And your address, oh no, rude, R-U-D-E. Yep, that's
Rude.
me.
Okay. And
Address?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry.
34 Santa Ridge Avenue.
You're in my neighborhood.
Okay, go
Ridgewood
Karen.
Traffic.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's hear it.
So I live at the intersection of Brackenridge and Santa Ridge, and every single day we have people running the stop signs there. And I know it's not just a problem for that intersection, it's a problem for all of the intersections on Santa Ridge and Ridgewood. So, my question is, to improve the safety of our neighborhood, could we cut off the intersection at Cedarbrook and Santa Ridge and Ridgewood?
I don't know that anybody's going to be prepared to answer that question tonight, but I think it's an interesting question, and you're the first.
Cut it off so there's no cut through the neighborhood?
Right,
I
so we have
understand.
3 entrances to the neighborhood
Correct.
instead of 4.
The fact that you brought this up is something we need to go look at, and Caroline, I'll let you even entertain looking at it as well. But I think we'll all go out and take a look at it. This is the first I've heard of this being a problem.
We've already spoken, actually.
Okay.
We
Are
spoke
you
by
back?
phone, yes.
Yeah.
I know. So we actually talked at length about this already. And what I offered to her is, because we've had this brought up in a number of our other neighborhoods, we initially did the targeted speed study. And in order to close a road by Ohio law, we have to go through a series of other safety measures to address what the problem is before we would be allowed to do that. And so what I offered to her, that we would start with our engineer, that we would do what we've done on some of the other roads where we've had complaints, that we will do a speed study and a stop sign study. You recall we did that for targeted areas in 2021. I can have that study, it's in draft format, reopened to add the streets that she brought up and the stop sign or stop signs, and then look at what the speed study engineering firm recommends there, put those measures, if any, into place, and then if there continues to be a problem, then we would look at more permanent measures such as speed humps, speed plates, or those types of things. That's the second step under the law. And then if those do not help address the problem, we can have there's a process for a road, considering a road closure, and it involves the police and fire and other emergency personnel weighing in through a public hearing process. So I offered that I would start that process for that. We just spoke
But just to be
a few weeks ago.
15th.
Yeah.
just to be clear, Karen, how long have you lived in the Ridgewood neighborhood for?
5.5 years.
5.5 years, okay. And I'm only saying this from here is that this is the first time I've heard there's a major problem there. So I'll certainly defer to Melissa on that, but I think first we have to define, is it a deeper problem, and then define, then do we close the streets? Because anytime you do anything when you're in these positions that all of us are in, there's just as many people that will be complaining about it as will be supportive of it. So I guess the big thing is it's like I live in a neighborhood where you have some people that really complain about speeding, want police down at the bottom of the neighborhood, don't want police down at the bottom of the neighborhood, want speed bumps, don't want speed bumps. It divides neighborhoods. So I think we need to also define, Is it independent, is it unique to you, or is it there's a broader concern? And I don't know how we do
suggested
this.
that to her as well. I asked her if you were a member of the Ridgewood Civic Association listserv, and that we hear a lot of feedback through that listserv, just informal. I had a couple of emails even just this past, in January, from a couple of people about matters in that neighborhood. Very great way to connect and hear details specifically. And then when we hear that there's a widespread concern, which we did when we were having some conversations about the sidewalk connectivity, then we know it's a broader problem. Not that one resident having an issue isn't a problem that we look at. We certainly have done that. But my next step is, I said, if you will do this, we will do this, and then let's circle back.
I did reach out to
Correct.
the volunteers that he connected me with,
Mhm.
and they agreed that it's a problem. And they offered to help me petition if I have to.
Well,
We don't need a petition.
well,
They didn't know.
I'll say this, speeding is a problem.
Yes.
And that's not unique. It's just a matter of take it to the next level of vacating streets, closing streets, creating speed bumps. The question is what the next step is. So first we have to define how, every time we hear somebody complain about a problem, is it a, universal problem that everybody is passionate about, and we need to just go better understand it. Go ahead.
I imagine that probably has a big impact on fire and EMS as well.
You're talking about the speed bumps and such?
No, I'm talking about that entrance to Ridgewood.
Yeah.
As far as a closure
Yeah.
would be.
I'm sure that's part of
So
the study.
we just need to define how rampant a problem it is, and we're inviting you. And by the way, the very fact that you brought this up, we're very compassionate and appreciate you bringing it up. We now need to study it and say, okay, and the more information you could give us, not just in a public meeting, but share with Melissa, and to the passion you feel about it, and what so that we can better define it, and then continue to go.
And then
research
traffic
it.
engineering will do that as well. So
What's that?
because this is, it's something that we, like I said, experience, and this board has discussed numerous times, to the point where last year we did a targeted speed study. This was not, as David said, an intersection or a street that anyone had ever brought to our attention. So it wasn't part of that study, and so that's when I offered, I can press pause on that study before we put it into final format and move forward with the signs for the stop signs and the permanent radar speed signs, add this area to it, and then get the recommendation back. So in terms of the details and all those types of things, that will come through what is required by, again, Ohio law. They're our roads in terms of the maintenance and repair and replacement, but they're not our roads in terms of speed limits or having them open or closed or we have to follow a process through the Ohio law. And so I started that with our traffic engineer. And so in terms of getting details and all those types of things, he will collect all of that, because that will help him make a decision about, yes, there are high speeds through here. Yes, there are problems with rolling stop sign, and then we will add that immediately to the study and the recommendations for putting improvements there, whether it's a radar sign, signs about fines on the bottom of the stop signs. All those types of things are the measures in that first step. And the fortunate thing about it is that we're already months into the study already. All we have to do is say, wait, add this area. They can go out, they will lay cords for the speeding, and then we pull from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office citation data for speeding and rolling stop signs, failure to yield, failure to stop. We pull that data off the court system for the last 3 years, and then they crunch all of that and come back and say, yes, yes, can't.
And Karen, I appreciate you bringing this up, and certainly the Hamilton County Sheriff can help us through this too, but again, I know when I live in a neighborhood similar to Ridge, it's not as big, but when we put a police officer down at the bottom of the hill, you had just as many people complaining about it as that were advocates of it. It's just, that is what you manage and have to deal with.
Yeah, it definitely divides
Yes,
neighborhoods.
and thinking we don't want police here, and so let's manage this, let's continue to communicate, and let's continue to advocate for what you believe in, and I believe you believe this. It's just a matter of just defining it and understanding it, and continue to communicate with Melissa, and we'll get to the bottom of it. And if there's a solution and there's a problem, we'll get to the bottom of all of the above. I just don't want to overreact every time somebody comes in here with an issue. So please understand, I do hear you. I do hear you, but we just can't just every time somebody comes in and thinks this neighbor did this, or this person did this, or we had a speeder come through the neighborhood once or twice, that we can't overreact without having some other consequences. So that said, appreciate it. Let's continue to communicate.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
When does the study conclude?
It was concluded until we had our call.
Oh, okay.
And then I said that I would have it expanded to include the street that you gave me, the intersection that you gave me, and gave it to our traffic engineer, not a staff person, it's a contractor. And so they have to schedule staff to go out and put the double ropes down for the speeding part of it, and then we have to pull the data, like I mentioned earlier, from the citations to see if it is an area that has experienced a lot of tickets. In the interim, what we can do is put the portable radar sign. I mean, this was, like I said, this was a couple of weeks ago, and a week of it was the storm, so lots still to get caught up on. We could put the portable radar sign there, as long as we have a location to park it safely. But we're using it in the next week, 2 weeks, because of a dumpster that is on a blind curve, so it would be after that. So we'll, I'll make a note of that. We have a portable radar sign.
Is there the ability to even do, and I don't mean to give tickets, but to actually, because you obviously have these speed signs that record data, is there ability to go record people that run through, or roll through, I'll say roll through, but
No, that
that
was
run stop signs? Is there ability?
Shut down in the courts with the whole camera law was
Oh, I don't
shut
mean to
down.
give tickets. I meant just to at least say, you know, we know who you, I mean, to at least deter. Is there any?
It was an invasion of privacy premise or something like that. I'd have to go back and read that statute.
No, and I didn't mean to go create a fool's errand for you, so I believe it. I just meant, whatever there is, we'll take a look at it. So that said, Amy, about other people with public comment?
Yes, I had a couple
Thank you.
of comments.
Thank you, Karen.
There was an email from Jay Gilbert on Kanawha, sorry, I knew I was going to say it wrong. And he writes to express his thanks to a snowplow operator who helped my wife and I free our car from its ice-encrusted prison last week. He said his name was Rob. He came along as we were trying everything to get out, even with his help in shovels and chains and rocking and pushing. It took about 20 minutes. We probably would have been there another hour without his help. Just want you to know you've got a good guy there. Which is really
Always nice to hear that.
Good to hear.
Rob is a
Newest
great
employee.
guy. Yeah, he's our new employee.
Yeah.
And thanks, Jay Gilbert, for saying that. Appreciate that.
Then another road crew shout out. This is from Linnea Lose of Ridgewood. P.S. Road crew has been super tenacious in face of impossible odds. Wow. Linnea. Yep. That's all.
Thanks, Linnea. Appreciate that. And those guys do a super job, so. Especially with this event here, that had to be one of the most comprehensive events of just nonstop hitting it. So, all good. All right, now we move on to the fiscal officer's report with Ms. Heekin.
The 2021 budget year has been closed out, and the January report is the first of the new 2020 budget year. The general fund balance is $3,170,064, which is a decrease of 2% from December. Restricted funds balance is $5,188,391, a decrease of 4% from December. These funds total $8,358,455, which is down 2% from December. Revenues for January, $315,699. Expenses, $469,953. Year-to-date revenues are $315,699, and expenses are $469,953. Our next semi-annual settlement of property tax revenues from the Hamilton County Auditor will occur in April. Our voter-approved levy revenues do not fully cover the cost of the township's public services. Our JEDZ business revenues supplement the cost of services that exceed our property tax revenues. Thanks to Columbia Township's success in attracting and supporting businesses, we are able to continue to provide residents with exceptional services at a lower cost. And after going to the Ohio Township Association conference, that was all reinforced by meeting other fiscal officers from other townships. We are in a really good position, and we have a really great professional board and administrator and staff. I'm very happy to report.
Well, thank you for saying that. Always nice. That includes me, too?
It does.
Okay.
I think
Okay, good.
I didn't specifically.
I'll take whatever compliments people throw at us. It's unusual. All right, any questions about the road superintendent's report with Mr. Frazier?
I have one comment on it.
You go ahead.
We were appreciative to a neighbor on Ken Oak who called around the holidays and said that it appeared that a really mature tree, that street has some really beautiful mature trees, was leaning. It was always a leaner, but it was leaning. They thought that it looked like it was leaning a little bit more. And so we asked, Dustin went out and looked at it, and then also we asked tree company, arborist, to look at it as well, and they agreed that there was some lifting at the roots, probably with a lot of the saturation from rains and such. And so we immediately called and had a company come out and remove it. So that's an example of one of the things that when we implement the NED program, and I have that a little bit later in my report, it's going to be a full assessment of all of our trees, and then we will be able to identify when a tree is already in a potentially risky phase, and go ahead as part of the NED program, have that removed, and then determine if there's an option to replace that. So this was an instance where we're reacting to, in a very swift manner, a tree that potentially could uproot, and there was a storm coming, not this one, but the prior one. There's so many, they seem to run together anymore. So really appreciate, we drop everything whenever there's a safety concern like this, and make sure that we go out and take care of it immediately. So we appreciate Dustin for that.
Thank you, Dustin. That we move on to the administrator's report with Ms. Taylor.
So the two big stories of the day are the Bengals. But before we get to that, we had a three-way storm, a perfect trifecta, with ice and sleet and snow that left about 400,000 people without power across the southwest to midwest and eventually the northeast. Our crews mobilized before the storm, making sure that we had a full bin of full garage of salt, as well as the trucks were chained and ready, loaded and ready to go. Everything was checked, we were prepared. And then our crews began working Thursday at 5 a.m. and worked nonstop all the way Thursday night, all the way Friday, most of Friday night, and then through Saturday morning, came back in for a check. And then after the sun started doing some melting of the very thick ice layer, came back in on Monday and went out and plowed and salted. We went through all of the salt that we had here at the building. Today and yesterday, the crews went to our satellite salt facility and brought more salt so that we're ready for the next time. So we really appreciate what they did. We had some tired guys in here. Ice is very difficult, and I wanted to spend a minute or two because we did receive some calls. Ice is not only does not behave like snow, it's very dangerous. It's not only dangerous to the residents, it's dangerous to us. And the plows are built for snow. They are not built for ice. You cannot plow ice. You can, to a certain degree, scrape it, and then you can certainly salt it, but you cannot plow it. And then when you are able to plow it somewhat, because it starts to break up from the warmth of the sun, you end up with, oftentimes, especially when it's this thick, huge sheets of it that can flip suddenly or push into something and cause damage. So we have to be really careful. Ohio law requires townships that our two priorities during a weather emergency that involves snow or whatever, the first priority is that we clear our streets for emergency equipment and vehicles. So the second priority is for the safety of the traveling public. We are not authorized to clear driveway aprons, and I know I personally experienced, Dustin experienced, and some people in the community experienced when you're moving and some of the salt dammed up into the driveway aprons. People were having to get out or hire contractors to come out and do their best to clear that. I know I damaged the underside of, I have a Jeep, and I damaged the underside of my Jeep getting off my driveway into my street. I live in a different township. As of yesterday, Dustin's street in his township still had not been cleared. Whereas I think Brian has, I'll leave that to you, but Brian has a video driving around showing clear streets and not clear streets. So I just wanted to share that our plows are large and are intended for the main streets, and those plows cannot navigate those small driveway aprons, and ice doesn't cooperate no matter what equipment that you have. But the guys did a lot of, we had some situations where we had people with disabilities who were having trouble getting to a public van that would pick them up, and so we did some additional hand work at their driveways, and so it just was a challenge for everybody. It continues to be. My street's still not cleared. I can barely walk on it, and I'm the only one on my street that can still get out. Everybody else is in a sedan and can't even navigate it, and we're at Tuesday. So just a really challenging firm and storm.
Can I add something really quick?
Please.
Two things. One, as we mentioned last year, as we put the waste and recycling levy on the ballot, that you would get the same service, and I think this is proof that you got the same
Yes.
service, right?
Same service.
This was a good
Lower cost.
test. Same service, lower cost. I think they did an amazing job. I have a 3.5-minute video where we beat the city, and in my neighborhood, you can't get out of my neighborhood without going to the city. And so it looks beautiful on some streets, and then others it's hard to get out of. And then secondly, we replaced John Cervisi with Dustin, so it's same service with bringing in Dustin in to replace John. And so I'm really proud of our township that we delivered on what we promised, and we have the same service. And so I wanted to reiterate what you just said, Melissa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And mostly thank you to the team that worked all those
Yeah,
long hours.
It was a lot of work. So the Bengals are headed to the Super Bowl, and I wanted to share that we, at the staff, decided, let's get into the spirit. There was a call.
I like that. That's fun.
Okay, good. Well, we have Bengal Orange in our logo, right?
Once every 30-some years.
Once
Go,
every
let's
30-something
go.
years.
Who they?
There was a call out, I think from the Greater Cincinnati Chamber or the Regional Economic Development Group, that they wanted large corporate buildings to light up the region orange. And we said, we don't have to be large or corporate. We can get into the spirit too. We got that email really early. We got it earlier than it was released to the region because of an inside track with someone at an agency. And that day, we traded the bulbs out on the front of the building to orange bulbs, and then we put orange covering over our floodlights on the memorial in the front of the building. And that night, we waited, all stayed late, and waited until dusk so that you could see the orange. We snapped a picture, put it on Facebook, and sent it out. So those lights have been on every night since the week the Bengals beat the Titans through the AFC Championship against Kansas City Chiefs, and
Don't
they
turn
are
those off.
on. They are not coming off. They are on through this weekend. So I know a lot of people are superstitious about things about what's happening with the Bengals. In the history of Columbia Township, this building has never been lit up orange, and once we lit it up, look what happened to the Bengals. Just saying. Just
Undefeated.
saying. Undefeated.
So we had a hand in
That's
the
the
Bengals.
color of orange. Undefeated orange. I am writing that down. Undefeated orange.
So we're more important than Joe Burrow? I like that. I like the compliments.
It
that
takes a
flow.
village, right, or a township. So,
There you go.
okay, so quickly, just a couple more things. I have on the agenda this evening a request for you to authorize professional services from an arborist so that we can move from the planning and voting stage of NED into the let's get it done stage. So we'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the resolutions. The Little Miami Joint Fire and Rescue District reorganization is effective at midnight, the last day of this month. I'll leave that to Mr. Lamar during his fire reports. I want to remind everyone that we are returning to the original founding membership between Columbia Township and the Village of Fairfax, a partnership like a good marriage that has lasted decades and serves residents and businesses well. We share services with Fairfax in other areas, and we are all the better for it. And so there's been a lot of work to bring us to this point. There is still a lot of work to do. For administration, we have ahead of us a lot of accounting coordination that is going to take place between us, the county auditor, Little Miami, and the Deer Park Silverton Fire District to make sure that revenues collected, invoices sent, bills paid all go to the right place on the right day in the right hour. And so that is just something to share that what our role is going to continue to be. And then the Supreme Court mediation for the reorganization, just because the reorganization is effective and Gulf Manor will depart the district at midnight on February 28th, we will stay in Supreme Court mediation until the asset allocation is successfully settled. So we will be in that the majority of this year, and then we will close that out. Rumpke, also under the category of services, Rumpke Recycling has expanded to include cups, paper, plastic, and aluminum cups, and I thought it was interesting that Rumpke said it took both developing partnerships with recycling facilities as well as upgrading their own technology so that they can sort out cups from all the different things is what it took to get that. And I know that recycling is important to a lot of people. Last year, Rumpke started accepting yogurt cups, and then now they're accepting drink cups. And so they continue to add to what they are able to recycle, which will divert more waste. Under our parks, paths, and roads, so Muchmore, you're aware that Muchmore Park, we temporarily closed after a theme of the meeting storm last year, and we have a contractor who is going to demolish the picnic structure because it is ready to fall. And David, I know that you approached me last week about what are we going to do about the park, and it is on our list. We have issues with that we have started looking at. We have hill slippage along Muchmore Road, and then we have erosion along the stream bank of Walton Creek. So we have two kind of major geotech issues, and that we're going to talk to our professionals at our various contract firms to see what might the cost of that stabilization be and who's responsible for it, the ownership of the creek and those different types of matters, and then what completely redoing that park to make it amazing could look like. So it's on our list. Like with other projects, including the firehouse, the schedules are just not moving. We experience delays, disruptions, and so, but it's important, it's on our list, and we are working on that. Buckingham Place in Cambridge West, at the special meeting in January, you authorized me to enter into a contract with Ford Development. We did not know it when we were talking about it at the last hearing that is broadcast live, that by combining those two road projects and selling them, bidding them early in the year, it came in under budget substantially. The estimate was approximately about $1.7 million. If both of them had been bid individually, they came in at just under $1.3 million. So substantial savings by going out early before everybody got tied up with all the other projects, and also by combining the two projects, which has a lot of savings efficiencies. We put a letter out to every resident in the neighborhoods where the road projects are going to be performed, offering them to participate in outreach communication with us called In the Loop. So the Cambridge project is Cambridge in the Loop, and the Buckingham project is Buckingham in the Loop. And Brian Lamar was the first person to sign up for both, so you're on both. And we're still hearing from people that they do not want to do town hall meetings. They do not want to do in-person meetings. They would prefer email communications or Zooms, or just to call us and ask us questions. So until we get to the point where everyone's comfortable, maybe we get to a little bit warmer weather and we can do some things outside, do some block parties in the neighborhoods. We wanted to set up something where we give them timely information on a regular basis as we are talking to the contractor. So when I'm having a conversation with the contractor, Dustin's having a conversation, and we know there's something that would be of interest to the neighborhood, including after we have a pre-construction meeting, what that schedule is going to look like, what are the mobile phones for all the site managers, so that we have contacts in case there's something really timely. So we're going to put that into motion. We're calling it In the Loop. So, and we've had quite a few people sign up for it, so
Okay.
it's been well received.
I'd love to add that sometimes people think when you're redoing a road that you're just repaving it.
Reconstruction.
This is complete reconstruction, and it's going to be a little bit of a pain while it's happening for the residents in those streets. I live on Row, and a couple years ago that happened to mine, and it's a little bit of a pain, but let me tell you, once it's done, it's beautiful. Beautiful new sidewalks, better drainage.
Whole new world.
Whole new trees, and it's so much better. And I know Buckingham and Cambridge really well. Those both are in dire need of it, and so hopefully they're patient once we start working on this and understand that it's going to be beautiful once it's done.
Those roads, from the records that we were able to pull, are at least or older 30 years. So, time for a makeover, one of my
Yes.
favorite words. So I'll close with, we love our businesses. We received our annual check from CBT, $15,000 that we typically use toward the purchase of a new police vehicle. That was part of our arrangement, my predecessor, Mike Lemon, and this trustee board before I started. And also CBT's expansion, which we supported and was approved through Hamilton County, begins this May and will be completed in November.
Okay.
And so that's a really nice partnership for a business to invest back into the community when we invested in them. That's my report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lister.
Okay, that we move on to the Economic Development Quarterly Report that Mr. Montgomery's provided to us. Do we have any questions or comments on that?
Yeah. I think his next one is April. Quarterly is April.
Okay. Next, we move on to the police report. Lieutenant Paul Neighbor.
As we all experienced, we had the level 1 and level 2 snow emergency just recently. Just a reminder, once the sheriff is responsible with issuing snow emergencies, and level 1, 2, and 3 are the 3 levels of snow emergencies. If we start issuing snow emergencies, please stay off the roads as much as you possibly can. We did a great job this past snowstorm as far as the residents are concerned, so thank you for all that. And the road closures were assisting with the road crews getting out there and doing the best they possibly could do given the circumstances.
Okay, and just for clarification, because this did come up, give us what level 1 means, level 2, and level 3 briefly. What's a level 1 emergency?
Briefly, a level 1 is telling you that the roads are dangerous.
Okay.
They are dangerous to the point where there's ice on the roads, and we're blowing snow, making it kind of hard, starting to make it hard to see, and snow is starting to accumulate.
Drive
Level
more
2
slowly and add distance between, allow for more braking distance between you and other cars.
Correct. Or stay off the roadway altogether, which is whatever you
Voluntarily.
decide to do. Level 2 is when it becomes very much a difficult strain for the officers to get to emergencies, for fire to get to emergencies. We're asking you to voluntarily stay off the roadways, as well as to call your employers to make sure that your employers are telling you to stay home or continue on to work. In fact, my daughter even had a problem with that as a parallel to that. She wanted to stay home, but I told her she had to go to work because her employer was telling her she had to go to work. So that's basically a level 2. And a level 3 emergency is basically blizzard conditions where it is so hard to see the roads that you can't see but 2 or 3 feet in front of you, and you could physically be arrested at that point if you're out on the roads unless you have an absolute need to be out and you're an absolute and essential personnel having to get to a hospital, let's say you're a nurse getting to a hospital or a doctor, those types of personnel maybe servicing the roadways like the road crew that are out there trying to clear the streets. That's the only people that should be out on a level 3 emergency.
So just to be clear, that of all of us, the only person that's essential is Melissa and our road crew.
The road
right?
crew.
Okay.
I was here. I came in.
All right, so my wife will appreciate that I'm officially non-essential. All right, now we move on.
We could arrange for essential cards, I'm sure. I'm sure there's an app for that somewhere, right?
All right, now we move on to trustees' reports. Anything to report?
I was going to report on the Little Miami fire.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did miss the Little Miami
That's okay.
Fire District, yes.
So Melissa did a good job of summarizing. February 28th, the contract ends for the Little Miami and Gulf Manor. And, they're working, they actually agreed to still continue that till the morning shift change. I think it's at 7 in the morning. And so starting on March 1st at 7 in the morning, the Ridgewood and the rest of the Ridge Fire District will move to Deer Park, Silverton. And we anticipate no challenges there. It has been seamless, really, transition as far as I can tell and having conversations. And I just wanted to mention, kind of a thank you to the Village of Gulf Manor. And we're still partners with Gulf Manor. They're also joining the Deer Park Silverton Fire District. So we're still partners with them. Obviously, the Village of Fairfax, we've had just a close partnership. And then the Little Miami Fire District and Chief Sifke and Deer Park Silverton with Chief Mater have just been amazing at partnering together. You could listen to the podcast a couple months ago, and you can hear the partnership and collaboration between them already. And so if residents in the Ridge Fire District, I don't anticipate any challenges at all. I think you'll be impressed with it. We got an annual report from the Deer Park Silverton Fire District, and they are very detailed in their reporting. They will take pictures of every scene they go on. They are very detail-oriented, so if you are being serviced by them, I can assure you that they are being very detail-oriented and service-oriented and likely have pictures of the scene. It's really amazing.
76 pages.
76 pages is their annual report.
Their annual report. Chief Meter is very vigorous, thorough.
And I think that the residents of Ridgewood especially will appreciate
Runs a
that.
Township.
And we're learning from that with Little Miami as well, trying to take what they're successful there, and we'll bring that over to Little Miami. So that's the really good report.
That's refreshing to hear, so.
Great.
All right.
That's awesome.
And refreshing to hear some good, positive energy and things going on. So thank you for sharing that. Now we move on to trustees' reports. Anything to report?
Not at this time, I don't.
Okay.
I kind of want to mention, like Caroline, going to the Ohio Township Association. I got to see you as well, and Melissa and Caroline and Dustin. And it was my first time attending, and it was great to see the perspective and learn from other townships. I think there's 1,100 something townships in Ohio, and they're all very, very different. Ours is one of the more, I guess, urban-ish ones, even though we're rather suburban. And so learning from so many other trustees, learning from so many administrators, and learning from the leadership of the Ohio Township Association was a great learning moment for me. And so I just wanted to, appreciate the fact that I get to go to that and learn and be a better public servant to the community.
Thank you for taking the time to go, too, because I know it's a committed effort for 3 days to go be there, so thank you. And it's always something you grow from the experience. Somehow, some way, somewhere, there's something you get out of it, so appreciate that. Okay, we move on to communications. Any questions about communications?
We had a very active month. We did multiple posts on Facebook,
Yeah.
all kinds of great reasons.
You do a great job with that, too, by the way.
Lauren.
I appreciate that.
Lauren and I put our heads together
I
and-
appreciate you handing it off to them. All right, Lauren, Kim,
Yeah.
Melissa, the whole team. Great. Greatest team in the world, seriously.
Thank you.
And I mean that. Continue to say.
Thank you.
The fact that you've got a great dynamic board that all get along and are focused to go do positive things for the community is just so refreshing.
It makes it easier, and I want to say this because I want people who don't understand the value of that. I know we've talked about that before.
No political drama.
We have a peer community who went through a period of political turmoil, and I will tell you, you saw that experience from a trustee level. We experienced it from a staff level, and their staff, the production, the productivity, the efficiency during that period of chaos, frankly, on their board dropped like a lead balloon. And even with the recent change with the election, they are already back on track. And so what you do as a board impacts positively or negatively what we as staff are able to do. And when you have positive, forward-thinking, reasonable leaders,
Unconflicted leaders, too.
Unconflicted leaders, we're able as staff to be highly productive, highly focused, and create everything from the technical to the creative. So it is an amazing experience. And as I have said before, one of the reasons that I accepted this position, because in my history as a professional in economic development and administration, having a professional board makes all the difference in what you're able to accomplish in this seat. And by the way, 2 years ago at this meeting, you had the second reading and approved my hire. And I want to tell you, it's been an amazing 2 years despite COVID and storms and a lot of other things. It's been 2 years.
You're still a rookie.
At some point, I need to get off probation, but
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. So that just popped into my head.
You're so young, is why I say.
Yeah, chemicals. So, but no, it's working in an amazing environment and loving what you do, and it makes it so much more possible. And I want the residents and the businesses to understand. Sometimes people view their leadership, their community leadership, as silent infrastructure. It's like water or whatever. It just is there. It doesn't matter until there's a problem. But firsthand experience from communities where when they don't have that kind of leadership, no one is getting what they should be getting done. It's all too clear recent examples.
One, as Brian said, as you go to these townships, and I know Caroline, you and I have chatted a little bit about some of the things you saw in your meetings of the different things that happen all over. We've got a pretty good hand here, and it makes a big difference. And Susan, certainly you historically have seen drama and non-drama.
I was just getting ready to tell her,
Yeah.
we are just as pleased as you being here,
Thank you.
and I've never regretted it. I think you're great.
Thank you.
So
And
it's-
likewise with you, Susan.
Drama leads to bad decisions. So that said, we'll move on.
Can I add to the communications
You-
really
you-
quick?
Of course you can.
To add on to what you said, and I know that when I came on, I knew that the township was in the process of trying to improve the communications, and I think we've done a lot of things. One of them was the podcast, and I want to promote that we typically record a podcast the day before this meeting, and so this is top of mind. If you're not listening, we shifted a little bit for a new series. It's called the Columbia Maker Series, and this is promoting residents, they're kind of movers and innovators and maybe interesting people in the township. And so yesterday we interviewed 2 residents. Both of them live in the Madison Place area. One of them is Nate Staniford, who is the manager at the Madison Place Coffee Shop. Lived in the neighborhood, I think, about 15 years. And then the other one is Brendan Haig, who is the owner, CEO, cook, caterer, everything at Bee's Barbecue. Bee's Barbecue is actually Madisonville, near a different part of Columbia
Wetzel
Township,
and
actually,
Chandler.
near that area. But he is a recent resident of Columbia Township, and so I thought it was fascinating to hear their perspective and their stories, why they wanted to start small businesses, and it's really giving back to the community. They're both so community-oriented, and it was really fascinating, I think, to hear their stories. And I hope if you're listening to our podcast, please listen to it. If you're not, this might be an interesting one to kind of hop on. It's about 15-minute interviews for each, so it's really quick listen.
Definitely a great listen to great local people and local businesses in the community, so all good.
And if you know anybody, send them to us. We'll put them on the podcast.
Yeah.
If you know a resident that's doing something interesting, and it could be anybody doing anything, charity work, interesting person owns a small business, may not be aware of, we'll put them on the podcast this year at some point.
Okay. And with that, we move on to resolutions. We'll hand it back off to the always factual and on-point Melissa.
We have 4 resolutions this evening. 2 are emergency and 2 are first reading dispensing with the second, and both involve the Community Improvement Corporation for Economic Development. The first 2 are both professional services, and the first is amending Resolution 2105, 2021, for professional services for general economic development assistance, authorizing the administrator to enter into agreement with Hamilton County Development Company, HCDC, for the term of February 1st, 2022 through January 31st, 2023, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. We annually enter into a contract with HCDC for our economic development coordination. Dustin Montgomery does a terrific job of working directly with all businesses, small and large. We have direct relationships with the majority of our large businesses, we had the chance to build relationships with many of our small businesses through our CARES grant programs. But historically, Dustin has managed that, serves in a contract capacity as our staff economic development coordinator. In 2021, I asked that, and you approved, that we expanded their contract because we were in the second year of the pandemic and were rolling out more programs for businesses, and we needed additional assistance, as well as Dustin assisted us in helping develop the NED program because they have contracts with communities all over Hamilton County and have best practices that they can pull. So they saved us a ton of money in being able to go to those resources. This year, we are going to go back to the original contract price and the original contract scope. And I didn't realize that when the contract rolled over that I should have brought it forward at the last meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and bring it forward as an emergency. It is $2,250 monthly. Which is like I said, a substantial reduction from last year's contract, which worked out really good. So it's nice to have bolt-on staff, so to speak, professional staff. When you need them, we pay them extra. When we don't need them, we go back. Different than bringing employees permanently on board. Any questions? All right, this is an emergency resolution passage. I've read the title of the resolution. May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
So moved. Second. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
We've dispensed with the second reading. May I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
The resolution is adopted. May I have a motion and a second to declare an emergency?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you. The second emergency resolution is related to our NED program and also to Muchmore Park. Authorizing an agreement for professional arborist and landscape design services for the Neighborhood Economic Development Program, NED, and Muchmore Park improvements. Authorizing the administrator to enter into an agreement with Natural Solutions Urban Forestry, LLC, dispensing with the second reading and declaring an emergency. As I mentioned earlier, we spent a good part of last year in the planning and development phase of NED. Now we want to get her done, I guess. And so we want to bring in someone who has the expertise to do a full assessment and inventory of all of our existing street trees, and then look at opportunities for new street trees to replace, make recommendations to us for everything from replacing street trees to leaving street trees but monitoring them, to putting them on a removal list where we can budget out for them, all those different types of things. And then also, in my search for this contract, which it took 2 months and I had to cast a really wide net, and I landed a rock star. I hope you agree. I've put his credentials on here. His name is Jerry Frankenhoff, and he is a recently retired, nearly 20-year employee of Great Parks, and already is familiar with our area and familiar with the Little Miami Trail extensions and the partnership that we had with Great Parks on that. His prior 20 years, he was an instructor at Cincinnati State Technical College, Cincinnati State, now in landscape design, which are exactly the services that we need. So I'm asking for your approval this evening to enter into a professional services contract with Jerry. He retired, set up his own company, and was getting ready to go out and promote his company to townships and cities, and I snagged him. So he's going to work for us, if you approve, for a specific number of hours a month, and he can start immediately. Because we have to install trees in a strict time frame in the fall, we reverse engineer the schedule. I could not afford, after I found him, Dustin and I interviewed him and set up the scope, we could not afford to lose another month waiting on a second reading. It would put our install this fall at jeopardy, and we know the residents want to see those trees come in. So I brought this forward as an emergency reading. And this was already budgeted in NED. This is just approval for the contract.
Okay. Oh gosh, what was my question? almost all the neighborhoods chose trees, other than a couple. Is that correct?
That's correct. And then we actually are in, we have a voice with the neighborhoods, what they
That's right.
chose, and then also a brief mention of the neighborhoods that have HOAs and the projects that they moved forward with. That's actually, there was one question today on a design feature. We're waiting on a picture. That will go out to all residents here very quickly. Majority of the neighborhoods did choose street trees, but some neighborhoods chose the designer street signs, which are beautiful as well. So we're going to put all that out, and then Jerry has experience with community engagement, resident engagement, and social media, which was a really important part of my search. And so we're going to introduce him and let him be, part of the face of the program and kind of our tree guy. And then have him help us with much more park as well.
Sounds fantastic.
Nice.
Do you need anything from us tonight?
Just need to vote for the resolution passage, and then I'll sign a
I
contract with
am
him.
so excited about this.
I'm
I
glad.
want to be
This
the
is
one
your
who
thing.
nominates
All
us.
Resolution passage so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Can we do
Yes,
a,
definitely.
can we do a second reading to dispense, can we dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Hold on. Who moved to do that?
Susan?
Sorry. And David. Okay. Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Resolution is adopted. May I have a motion to invoke, and second to invoke the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
All right, thank you. I'm excited to get started with him. He has a lot of energy.
And you made a good joke that you wish his name was Ned instead of Jerry.
We could make him.
That was your joke. I'll give you all
Yes,
credit.
it was like, that would have been perfect, but otherwise, he is definitely perfect, and his credentials are incredible. And a friendly guy. We don't want someone too technical or dry, but to have all that under their belt. All right, the last two resolutions are both reimbursing the CIC, which is the Community Improvement Corporation that is our economic development agent. And the first is authorizing financial assistance to the Community Improvement Corporation of Greater Cincinnati under Ohio Revised Code 505.701 to defray expenses related to Columbia Township economic and community development projects from non-tax funds, and dispensing with the second reading. So this is first reading, dispensing with the second reading. These are not emergencies. The Community Improvement Corporation, this one is specifically, the Community Improvement Corporation is is working with 50 West on approximately $400,000 of improvements that have a public purpose scope. First, public restrooms accessible to the Little Miami Trail, and we're also working with Great Parks on that project. And then also an event stage for community events and also for corporate events. And Columbia Township, using non-tax funds, will reimburse the CIC for a share that's just over 20% of that project. And then we will have the ability to promote that we now have restrooms on a Columbia stop of the Little Miami Trail, as well as an event stage that we can conduct community development events, major national events. Because, as I've mentioned before, we don't have parks. We have much more park, but it's a pocket park. So we don't have parks. We don't have a recreation department. 50 West, to a degree, and then Murray Avenue, to a degree, function as spaces for community gatherings. And so it's wonderful that the CIC has this partnership with 50 West, and we can participate in this project.
I didn't realize that was the first bathroom.
Public bathrooms for the other bathrooms are down at Avoca Trailhead, which is farther east toward Terrace Park.
When I heard about this, my first question was, who's going to keep them clean?
Yeah, that is going to be between 50 West and Great Parks.
Good question.
Okay.
Any questions?
No, I'll just say this is a fantastic improvement for that area.
Yes.
And for the community to put an event stage right there along the path is going to be unique. And hopefully, we'll leverage it and utilize it as a community. And so if you live in the community, keep an eye out for events coming this summer.
So I have read the title. May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading and pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
All right, we're in the home stretch. Last resolution also. I'm sorry.
You still need to pass it. You've just dispensed with the second, sorry.
So
No good.
may I have a
That's why you're
motion?
here, Caroline.
Sorry.
Keeps us in line.
We've dispensed, I'm like, she keeps us in line and you're keeping us
He's
moving and I'm
keeping it
like,
moving, yeah.
who am I going to please tonight? Okay, so
You please all of us.
we have dispensed with the second reading. May I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Let's see if I can do better on this next one. Okay. Authorizing financial assistance to the Community Improvement Corporation of Greater Cincinnati under Ohio Revised Code 505.701 to defray expenses related to Columbia Township economic and community development projects from non-tax funds and dispensing with the second reading. This amount of $50,000 is going toward a multi-phase improvement of Walton Creek Road. We do not own Walton Creek Road, Hamilton County Engineer does, and then there are multiple property owners along the length of it, and we have access issues. We have improvements planned for Walton Creek in partnership with the county that I've brought before the board before, the largest of which is adding an additional southbound turn lane so that the traffic does not back up as far on Walton Creek. We applied for grants, and we've received so far about $120,000 of that project. You've already given me authorization to enter into that grant agreement. I actually am going to the offices downtown this Thursday afternoon to sign that grant agreement. There are several small projects that are leading up to that project, and then there's another project involving sidewalks that will follow the road improvement. There's a lot of moving parts to this. And to shorten the description on this one, this will provide for an access improvement to one of the new developments, commercial developments that is occurring on Walton Creek. And we are going to, I will bring this forward to you, I hope at the next trustee meeting, make a recommendation that we have the opportunity to put a new TIF into place on the Creekside Trail apartment complex, because apartments are considered commercial. We're not TIFing residential. And we will be able to put a 10-year TIF into place and capture the new value from that property being turned from one home into a commercial development, $3+ million total value. So the piece that would come into the TIF, we can then use to pay back expenses that we will have for the corridor improvements coming up this year, and then pay for corridor improvements, including sidewalks potentially up to Muchmore Park in coming years. And so I'll bring that forward to you. So this is just the first step in that cash outlay that will be refunded once we have that TIF set up. Do you have any questions on that one?
Nope.
All right, I'm going to get this right. I'm going to follow my notes. So I have read the title. May I have a motion and a second to dispense with the second reading?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
We have dispensed with the second reading. May I have a motion and a second to pass the resolution?
So moved.
Second, roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, I make a motion to approve the payment of bills, bank reconciliation, and financial reports. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
And I make a motion to the signing of the minutes and resolutions. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
And I make a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Yes.
Barely.
Let's keep going.
Roll call.
Mr. Lamar?
Yes.
Mr. Kubicki?
Yes.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes.
Adjourned.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Thanks, Elliot. Thanks, Rob, the gang, all, everybody. Thank you. And Karen, thank
Don't
you for
run away
coming.
till you sign,
Okay.
please.